Hello, 7th graders. This is your homework video for lesson 10 and 11. So starting off with question number 1, we have a table and we need to determine if Sean's earnings are proportional to the number of hours that he works. And so don't forget to always label your table here. What you need to do, you need to explain your reasoning. I would suggest finding a unit rate. So when you find the unit rate, you have to do y divided by x for each of the values. If you do find a unit rate, you need to explain why the table is proportional. Explaining is important here. Part B, you need to write an equation relating to Sean's earning E in dollars to the number of hours T that he works. So I would go back up to your table. Dollars is going to have E, and then hours is going to be T. And remember that generic equation that we're going to use is y equals k times x. And from there, you should be able to do some substitutions of whenever you see a y, you're going to use a certain letter. Whenever you see an x, you're going to use a certain letter. And of course, we replace that k with the constant of proportionality, or as we talk about, is the unit rate. Part C, Sean earns $62.50, and how many hours does he work? So we have our equation here. What you'll need to do is in your equation in terms of E and T is you'll need to substitute $62.50 for where you see the letter E. So for example, your equation might, if it's E equals, 7T, which this isn't the correct equation, I would substitute E for $62.50. So my new equation would look like this. It'd be 62.50 equals 7T. And what I would need to do is I would need to get my T variable by itself. I need to use some inverse operations here, divide both sides by 7, and I would get the value for T. Now, of course, that's not my correct equation. That was just an example. Part D is the same thing, but in terms of hours. And so the letter that's related to hours, you'll have to figure that out, but it's on the table already. Question number 2, we have someone driving 23 miles for each gallon of gas that her car uses. So I would make a table just to start off. So we have G gallons of gas and how far it goes, M miles. So for every 1 gallon of gas, it's going to go 23 miles. Honestly, if you use this table, it should be able to help you answer the rest of these questions. To write an equation, again, miles driven M, that's already there, and then gas used G, and don't forget this is your X and this is your Y. Looking at part B though, Yuyan plans to drive 391 miles, so we do 391 right here. You would need to find then the missing value. And then part C, if she has 12 gallons of gas in her car, how far can she drive? That'll give you the answer for that value. Again, write that equation using the generic form, y equals k times x, but of course you're not using y, k, and x anymore. We're substituting the appropriate variables, and we're using our constant of proportionality, or as we all know, it's actually the unit rate. Number 3 is a little bit more involved. We're not given a table or anything. We're just asked if the number of pints to the number of fluid ounces is proportional. So the question we need to find a unit rate. You always need to find unit rate to determine if something is proportional. Use the points. So again, it's just going to be that y divided by x. And don't forget, the coordinates always go the x coordinate first, then the y coordinate. So for example, to see what the unit rate is at this point, all you do is 240 divided by 15. And you need to do that for every single point. And if you get the same unit rate, then you'll know that this graph is proportional. You need to write an equation here. I would make a table. It's going to help you. So making your table here, don't forget to label your table. You have X and you have Y. The pints is on the X axis here. So it's going to be a P here. And then the fluid ounces is on the Y axis. And I believe they use a Z for that. So we'll put a Z right there. I know it's a little confusing down there. Now let's put our points from the graph into the table. So my first point, I have 348 and then 696. That's going to help you organize your thoughts and ideas there. It's going to help you write your equation. And remember, the generic form is that y equals k times x. Number C and number D, if you make a table, it's going to help you answer that question. If you need 11 pints of water, you need to find how many ounces are in 11 pints of water. Using that table or using your equation is going to be very helpful for you there. So making a table is always a really good way to organize your thoughts, or if you'd prefer the more abstract method compared to the semi-concrete method, you can use your equation. So that's it for lesson number 10, but let's go on and move on to lesson number 11. Sorry about the scrolling. In lesson number 11, homework, it's on page 159. It's just question number 7. We're given a graph and several proportional relationships are on the graph. Each are showing the distance in miles an object moves based on the number of hours it is in motion. So hours is on the x-axis and distance is on the y-axis. What you need to do, you need to determine which of these proportional relationships have a unit rate that is less than 1. So you need to look for those critical points on the graph and determine what the unit rate is. Remember, those critical points are where the grid of the graph is intersecting perfectly just like that. And just by looking at the graphs right now, this is my first time looking at it, I see lots of critical points for all the lines here. In your explanations, be sure to discuss the steepness of the lines in your response. What does it mean? Is it like, does the steepness mean it's a greater unit rate, a lesser unit rate? Just talk about stuff like that. Part B, you need to identify those critical points on the graph of line J. I think there's only 1 or 2 critical points on this line, but try to find the one that is the best demonstration of the unit rate. That's going to be where the x coordinate is 1 and the y value is another value. Be sure to explain what the unit rate means in this context. So to do that, you need to use the labels of the graph. Use the graph labels. Don't just say it's the unit rate. That's not an explanation of what it means in the context. So that's your homework video for lesson 10 and 11.